Parashat Chaye Sarah, Genesis 23:1 through 25:18. First Aliyah. Sarah's lifetime, the span of Sarah's life, came to 127 years. Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, now Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham proceeded to mourn for Sarah and to bewail her. Then Abraham rose from beside his dead and spoke to the Hittites, saying, I am a resident alien among you. Sell me a burial site among you, that I may remove my dead for burial. And the Hittites replied to Abraham, saying to him, Hear us, my Lord, you are the elect of God among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us will withhold his burial place from you for burying your dead. Thereupon Abraham bowed low to the landowning citizens, the Hittites, and he said to them, If it is your wish that I remove my dead for burial, you must agree to intercede for me with Ephron, son of Zohar. Let him sell me the cave of Machpelah that he owns, which is at the edge of his land. Let him sell it to me at the full price for a burial site in your midst. Ephron was present among the Hittites. So Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the Hittites, the assembly in his town's gate, saying, No, my Lord, hear me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that it is in. I give it to you in the presence of my people. Bury your dead. Then Abraham bowed low before the landowning citizens and spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the landowning citizens, saying, If only you would hear me out, let me pay the price of the land, accept it from me, that I may bury my dead there. And Ephron replied to Abraham, saying to him, My Lord, do hear me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? Go and bury your dead. Abraham accepted Ephron's terms. Abraham paid out to Ephron the money that he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver at the going merchant's rate.
Second Aliyah. So Ephron's land in Machpelah near Mamre, the field with its cave and all the trees anywhere within the confines of that field, passed to Avraham as his possession, in the presence of the Hittites, of the assembly in his town's gate. And then Avraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, now Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Thus the field with its cave passed from the Hittites to Avraham as a burial site. Avraham was now old, advanced in years, and Hashem had blessed Avraham in all things. And Avraham said to the senior servant of his household, who had charge of all that he owned, Put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by Hashem, the God of heaven and the God of the earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell, but will go to the land of my birth and get a wife for my son Isaac. And the servant said to him, What if the woman does not consent to follow me to this land? Shall I then take your son back to the land from which you came? Abraham answered him, On no account must you take my son back there. Hashem, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from my native land, who promised me on oath, saying, I will assign this land to your offspring, will send a messenger before you, and you will get a wife for my son from there. And if the woman does not consent to follow you, you shall then be clear of this oath to me, but do not take my son back there. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of his master Abraham and swore to him as bidden.
Third Aliyah. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camel and set out, taking him all the bounty of his master, and he made his way to Aram Naharaim, to the city of Nahor. He made the camels kneel down by the well outside of the city. At evening time, the time when women come out to draw water, and he said, O Hashem, God of my master Abraham's house, grant me good fortune this day, and deal graciously with my master Abraham. Here, stand by the spring, as the daughter of the townspeople come out draw water. Let the maiden to whom I say, please lower your jar that I may drink, and who replies, drink, and I will also water your camels. Let her be the one whom you have decreed for your servant Isaac. Thereby shall I know that you have dealt graciously with my master. He had scarcely finished speaking when Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor, came out with a jar on her shoulder. The maiden was very beautiful and a virgin, no man having known her. She went down the spring, filled the jar, and came up. The servant ran towards her and said, please let me sip a little water from your jar. Drink, my lord, she said. And she quickly lowered the jar upon her hands. Let him drink. When he had let him drink his fill, she said, I will also draw for your camels until they finish drinking. Quickly emptying her jar into the trough, she ran back to the well to draw, and she drew for all of his camels. The man meanwhile stood gazing at her, silently wondering whether Hashem had made his errand successful or not. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold nose ring weighing a half shekel and 2 gold bands from her arms, 10 shekels in weight. Pray tell me, he said, whose daughter are you? Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? She replied, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. And she went on, there is plenty of straw and feed at home, and also room to spend the night. The man bowed low in homage to Hashem.
Fourth Aliyah, and said, Blessed be Hashem, the God of my master Abraham's house, who has not withheld steadfast faithfulness from my master. For I have been guided on my errand by Hashem to the house of my master's kin. The maiden ran and told all this to her mother's household. Now Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban. Laban ran out to the man at the spring. When he saw the nose ring and the bands on his sister's arms, and when he heard his sister Rebekah say, Thus the man spoke to me, he went up to the man who was still standing beside the camels at the spring. Come in, O blessed of Hashem, he said. Why do you remain outside when I have made ready the house and a place for the camels? So the man entered the house, and the camels were unloaded. The camels were given straw and feed, and water was brought to bathe his feet and the feet of the entourage under him. But when food was set before him, he said, I will not eat until I have told my tale. He said, Speak then. I am Abraham's servant, he began. Hashem has greatly blessed my master, who has become rich, giving him sheep and cattle, silver and gold, male and female slaves, camels and asses. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore my master a son in her old age, and he has assigned to him everything he owns. Now my master made me swear, saying, You shall not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I dwell, but you shall go to my father's house, to my kindred, and get a wife for my son. And I said to my master, What if the woman does not follow me? He replied to me, Hashem, whose ways I have always followed, will send a messenger with you and make your errand successful, and you will get a wife for my son from my kindred, from my father's house. Thus only shall you be freed from my adjuration. If, when you come to my kindred, they refuse you, only then shall you be freed from my adjuration. I came today to the spring, and I said, O Hashem, God of my master Abraham's house, if you would indeed grant success to the errand on which I am engaged, as I stand by the spring of water, let the young woman who comes out to draw, and to whom I say, Please, let me drink a little water from your jar, and who answers, You may drink, and I will also draw for your camels. Let her be the wife whom Adonai has decreed for my master's son. I had scarcely finished praying in my heart when Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder and went down to the spring and drew. And I said to her, Please give me a drink. She quickly lowered her jar and said, Drink, and I will also water your camels. So I drank, and she also watered the camels. I inquired of her, Whose daughter are you? And she said, The daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, whom Milcah bore to him. And I put the ring on her nose and the bands on her arms. Neh. Then I bowed low in homage to Hashem and blessed Hashem, the God of my master Abraham's house, who led me on the right way to get the daughter of my master's brother for his son. And now, if you mean to treat my master with true kindness, tell me, and if not, tell me also, that I may turn left or right. Then Laban and Bethuel answered, The matter was decreed by Hashem. We cannot speak to you bad or good. Here is Rebekah before you. Take her and go, and let her be a wife to your master's son, as Hashem has spoken. When Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed low to the ground before Hashem.
Fifth Aliyah. The servant brought out objects of silver and gold and garments, and gave them to Rebekah, and gave presents to her brother and to her mother. Then he and the entourage under him ate and drank, and they spent the night. When they arose next morning, he said, Give me leave to go to my master. Her brother and her mother said, Let the maiden remain with us some 10 days, then you may go. Said to them, Do not delay me, now that Hashem has made my errand successful. Give me leave that I may go to my master. And they said, Let us call the girl and ask for her reply. They called Rebekah and said to her, Will you go with this man? And she said, I will. So they sent off their sister Rebekah and her nurse, along with Abraham's servant and his entourage. They blessed Rebekah and said to her, O sister, may you grow into thousands of myriads. May your descendants seize the gates of their foes. Then Rebekah and her maids arose, mounted the camels, and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and went on his way. Isaac had just come back from the vicinity of Bir Lahai Roi, for he was settled in the region of the Negev. And Isaac went out walking in the field toward evening, and looking up, he saw camels approaching. Raising her eyes, Rebekah saw Isaac. She alighted from the camel and said to the servant, Who is that man walking in the field toward us? And the servant said, That is my master. So she took her veil and covered herself. The servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Isaac then brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he took Rebekah as his wife. Isaac loved her, and thus found comfort after his mother's death.
Sixth Aliyah. Abraham took another wife, whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shuah. Jokshan begot Sheba and Dedan. The descendants of Dedan were Ashurim, the Letushim, and the Leumim. The descendants of Midian were Ephah, Efer, Enoch, Abidah, and Elda'ah. All these were descendants of Keturah. Abraham willed all that he owned to Isaac, but to Abraham's sons, by concubines, Abraham gave gifts while he was still living, and he sent them away from his son Isaac eastward to the land of the east. This was the total span of Abraham's life, 175 years, and Abraham breathed his last, dying at a good, ripe age, old and contented, and he was gathered to his kin. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite, facing Mamre, the field that Abraham had bought from the Hittites. There Abraham was buried, and Sarah his wife. After the death of Abraham, God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac settled near Be'er Lahai Roi.
Seventh Aliyah. This is the line of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's slave, bore to Abraham. These are the names of the son of Ishmael, by their names in the order of their birth. Nebayot, the firstborn of Ishmael, Kedar, Abdil, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Masa, Hadad, Tema, Yetur, Nafish, and Kedma. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their villages and by their encampments. 12 chieftains of as many tribes. These were the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. Then he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his kin. They dwelt from Havilah by Shur, which is close to Egypt, all the way from Ashur. They camped alongside all their kin.